Right, record. All right, welcome to data entry training for Mercer County, specifically John O. Wilson on August 9th, 21. So what you're seeing here is what is currently the home dashboard. Sorry, trying to get all my other windows up so I can see you and see this stuff. Is the home dashboard. Now, not to frighten the horses, but we are doing a major update that is going to hit in late September. It's going to not change the functionality of this landing page, but it's going to let you personalize it. So instead of having it be static cards here with the search and the staff information and the follow-up dashboard and all that, there's Martha, right? You'll be able to choose which widgets and in what order you want them to show up on your screen. Okay, but come the end of September, there will be some updates and changes, and we will be doing webinars. And Steve, you can decide whether or not do you want to train all the grantees on it, or you want us to do an overview that's just Mercer County. Happy to do it either way. We'll be starting to host the webinars and admin stuff as we get into August and into September. So I just don't want you thinking, my gosh, she just trained us. Why is it changing?
Well, everything you can help with, I want.
Good morning.
Good morning, Martha. Welcome.
How are you?
Well, yourself?
That's good. Thank you.
Good.
Good.
We are recording so that you all can have a reference for this earlier. And I was just letting folks know that EmpowOR is doing a 2.0 update, and some of the stuff I'm showing you today, excuse me, I beg your pardon. Some of it will be changing, but the functionality will all still be there. You'll have greater opportunity to personalize, and we will then do a specific Mercer County 2.0 update probably the first week of October. Steve, we'll get it on the calendar soon, because I suspect you will not be the only person asking for a personalized 2.0 tour. But it's going to be adding increasing functionality for users to customize your experience. So this landing page will be customizable. So when you're working with EmpowOR, with the software, Martha, have you been able to log in and check your credentials and stuff?
I did. I did that the other day.
Great.
Stopped by, so yeah, let me in.
Nope. Awesome. That's perfect, because after today, ideally, each of you would take some time today and tomorrow to go in and do some stuff and mess around, create a test client or work with a real client, your choice, and cement some of the learning. Okay. And I'll show you how to reach support, but also, especially here at the beginning, if you all need a follow-up session to today, if we don't get through enough, no problem. We can schedule that. Okay.
Right.
So the first thing in EmpowOR, and I really hammer this home, is before you enter a new client, oh, I've never been here before, it's a new client, check the database anyway. A couple of reasons. People don't always know where they've gotten help when they've been in a crisis, right? They're not sometimes as tuned into that. But also, you've got 3 other partner agencies in Mercer County. It is possible that somebody went to summer camp through RISE and is here in the database, but they haven't yet gotten services through John O. Wilson, right? So always, and I just use this search key right up here at the top. And so, type in this case, we're going to type in test, because I happen to have a beautiful test client, several test clients, because you can see other folks have been messing around. I encourage you, if you are going to do test clients, name them test. It's very easy to find them then when it comes to reporting and pull them out. So in this case, what you're seeing is the search results. And I just clicked on a household. Let me go back. I did that a little too fast. So once you search, it's going to bring up every household that has the letters TEST, since that's what I typed, in the first or last name. So it's going to bring up Angela Test, Lil Tester. If there was somebody named Testy, it would bring them up, right? It's searching for the letters. EmpowOR is household focused. Everybody exists in the context of a household. It might be a household of 1 person, might be a household of 10 people, could be anything. Right? You do not create a household separately as you do in some databases. In EmpowOR, you create the individuals. And so now that I've shown you how to look for one and get into it, we're going to go back in and not find somebody, and I'm going to show you how to create a new household from scratch. Okay, and then we'll go to entering services. So you've searched, and let's see if there's anybody named Bunny in here. Nope. Do we want to search inactive? No, we don't need to do that. Once you've searched and it's come up with no results, bear in mind typos happen. For instance, if somebody spells Smith with a Y instead of an I, or somebody had a typo, you can do it. So you may want to be a little creative with your searching, right? Don't search for Joe Smith, search for JSM, for instance, because that would bring up people. Go ahead, Peter.
Can you search by other criteria?
You
Phone
can.
number, zip code?
Yes, you can. Good question. So I'm going to do a duplicate tab trick because you can work in more than one tab in EmpowOR. So no, I don't need to search again. Thank you. You can either go to participants, search participants households, or you can click on that logo, but that's going to go away in a couple of months for a different one. Now, do you see on this screen, which is also what it brought up when there weren't any searches, you can now search people. Don't worry about communities or businesses, and you all shouldn't be seeing CADs. First, last, the last four of social if it's in there, phone number, who's assigned to it, to the person, case, who last updated it, if you have their participant or household ID. Okay, those are the fields that you can search from.
Date of birth?
Yep, up in the right-hand corner. Sorry, pictures were over it. I forgot to say it. So you can, you can do kind of a good faith check. EmpowOR does do duplicate checking, but it will pick up Joe versus Joseph Smith if it's the same date of birth. But people have been known to make typos even in date of birth. And the system isn't going to intuit that 6/4 birthday is the really 3/4 birthday. It's going to assume they're two different people, and it's not going to trigger a duplicate warning. Okay. So once you've searched and you've assured yourself that this new participant isn't in there, you would come here and you would add the household. Okay. In the update, there's actually going to be a green plus button right up here at the top next to the search bar. I lost the fight on having that on there because I want you to search before you create a new one. But you'll be able to do a shortcut if you know for sure they're not in the system. So the green plus button is simply the one person function of the add household button. They're the same thing. But the add household button, when you're going to add more than one person, is a little streamlined and it saves you clicks. So in this case, we're going to add Bugs Bunny to our database. I'm feeling a little goofy cartoony today. Sometimes it's Sesame Street. Do you all gather socials at John O. Wilson, or at least the last four, or no? I don't know what your data protocol is.
I believe so for
Okay.
the utility and assistance programs.
Okay, then at least the last four in, much less the full social, is the third check for the duplicates in EmpowOR. It's going to look against first name, last name, date of birth, and social if it's there. Okay, so we're going to add date of birth is a required field, as is first and last name. So let's give ourselves an adult. Let's add a household member. Oop. Give them a last name. Right. So you fill in the date of birth here. I'm going to add one who's a child, because there are some differences. Let's make it today. Let's see, what would I have to do my math on my fingers. It's like, oh, 2000. No, that makes him an adult. Funny how age makes fools of us all, isn't it? All right. So I've got my household members here on this screen that I'm making into a new household. I'm going to do finish and next. Once we do that, it takes us to the basic participant information for the first person I entered. It assumes the first person is the head of household, but you can always change that later. So it doesn't really matter what order you enter them in. This right up here in the corner is going to show you where you are in the database, and that's going to be true at all times. So this is going to say you're in Bugs's basic information versus the Bugs Bunny households information, where you see them all on one screen. It's going to change a little bit in the update. The important thing on this page, though, is to know this page and this page down to education are the CSBG demographic fields. These are what tie directly to the reporting that Steve has to do to the state, and the state has to kick up to the feds. Okay. Obviously, phone and email aren't, but you're going to need those for your own purposes. But the demographic fields, so let's say Bugs is male, he is Bunny, so it's other race. We'll make him Latino. Not disabled. We'll give him, if you don't do health insurance, if you don't check it, I know some people don't, then you don't. Let's make him English speaking. Make him divorced. He's employed full time, and he is not a veteran. Education, let's say high school diploma, right? And here's where you can put in one or more phone numbers. Okay, and an email. Okay. Note that even though I typed the phone number, it hasn't put it in below. You have to click the add button because you can have more than one phone number. So you might have a message number, a mobile number, a work number for somebody. You know, it might be like me, I have a cell phone. That's it. I work here at home. I don't have any other phones. That's my phone number. And you can change your label if you need to. Make it mobile. Okay. The green luggage tag, this is the first time you've seen that probably. So let's make it a second one. When this shows up, oh, it's over here in English, you'll see it. That just means it is the preferred one. Okay. So if they have a home phone, but they really don't use it and they'd like, use my mobile, please. And if you click on that and make it main, that's what will show up first for you. And you can also see here on the screen. So for instance, if someone was bilingual, English and Spanish, but they prefer Spanish, that's how you indicate that here. And that's strictly for y'all's use for making it easier to work with people. Okay? Clear so far?
No, it's just the way I have it.
All right.
Too long.
Steve, I'm going to mute down. I think we've got somebody in the background there. And
Oh,
you're fine. Unmute when you want to say anything, okay? All right, so I'm going to do save and next. Only in this case, I'm not going to enter demographic information for the other two. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to say save and next. Now, please note, this is our child that we created. We made Kiddo Bunny a 12-year-old. This little icon, it'll change slightly, but there'll still be a child icon. This indicates that it is a kid under 18 in this case, because that's New Jersey, so in most places, age of adulthood. You'll notice that over here, marital status, employment status, veteran status have disappeared because those don't apply to children. Now, let's say that you've got a 17-year-old head of household. It happens more often than we would all like, right? That you are helping out. You can put them in here. They're still going to show up as a child, but you see this box right down here. Consider as adult. If you do that, it's going to now bring up marital status, employment, veteran status, because you are considering this person as an adult. Okay? So that's how to actually get a true read, particularly on emancipated teens or teens on their own, that kind of thing. All right. So in this case, I'm going to take that off. I'm not going to fill out any of the additional information on purpose, though I would not recommend that for you doing your steps. I want to show you a flag that shows up. All right, so I'm going to save and close. It's going to now return us to the household information, basic information. Okay. This is how the household people exist in the household, right? So there's a household headed by Bugs Bunny. And if I want to make Daffy Duck the head, I can just click that luggage tag again, make them primary. Now Daffy Duck is the head of household. And when the screen refreshes, now it says the household name is Daffy Duck. Oops, except that I didn't mean to click that button. Okay. It's whoever you've indicated as the head of household. And usually it has more to do with who you talk to the most than any other socioeconomic judgment call. But you see here the red flags. That means there is basic information missing for those people that Bugs Bunny has. And it is specifically the demographic fields that we went over. In the update, it's going to be much better because if you click on the flag, it'll take you in a new tab. You see it opened a new tab here. So it didn't mess you up for what you're doing here. Right? It's going to actually highlight in red which ones are missing. At the moment, you have to go through them and figure out what you didn't do. So let's make Daffy Duck a male. And let's say he is black. And let's make him not. He's not disabled. He doesn't have health insurance. He speaks something else. Also divorced. I'll make him part-time. Not a veteran, and only went through 11th grade, and we're not going to do phone numbers. I'm going to save and close so that you can see when it takes me now back to the screen for the basic information for the household. You see the flag next to Daffy has disappeared because I've completed all the fields. So that is your way to tell that something is missing. And it may be that something is missing. You don't know about something. That's going to be the case sometimes. Right? Just incomplete information. But that flag is going to alert you that ideally, the next time you talk to them, you'd get whatever the missing information is and fill in the blanks. Okay.
Well, could those fields just be required so that you know every time?
They will be in 2.0. We can make them required. We cannot at this point because some agencies that work with us don't collect that data. And so if we made that global change across, that would affect them too. So we are adding for administrators in work templates to indicate that these fields are all required. The challenge is what if you don't know about insurance, but you still want to help somebody today, right? So if you make them mandatory and you're missing some key part of the information, you know, it's a
Other than, don't know, like you could just have
and leaving it blank
default
does make it don't know in reporting, which is a viable choice.
Okay.
You just don't get to choose don't know. You just leave it and you acknowledge that it's red because you don't have it. But that does translate in reporting to don't know. So a good point, a very good point. When we're in the basic information for the household, remember we didn't give Daffy a phone number or an email. So it's not showing up here. It's only going to be the primary contact that's showing up. In 2.0, each person will have a phone number and address field right here, or phone number and email address, so you'll be able to see it. The important thing here is to get their housing information in, and you do that using this little icon, which will be similar. It'll be a pencil, not on a piece of paper next time. The system will hold 2 addresses as current if you have a physical and a mailing. It's happy to do that. You notice that it is current, and so we're going to make it Warner Brothers Lane. What's the zip code in Mercer County? What's the most common zip code?
08610.
Excellent. Once we do that, it knows that that's Mercer County, and it knows that it's going to be Hamilton, Hamilton Township, or Trenton. Right? So you can choose. That's why postal code comes first. You guys have seen that on many other web interfaces. You enter the zip code and it does the lookup for you. The important one, only important one on this side, because you all aren't using development, ward, or regional divisions, right, is the housing status. Are they homeless, not fit, homeless other, like couch surfing or something, a homeowner, other permanent housing, not permanent housing, or rent? So figure out which one mostly reflects how they are living and hit save. And now you see that the physical address is showing up. I could add, if I wanted, a different mailing address, I would just choose that, and it'll hold 2 current at the same time for that. And once it refreshes, you will see that this now has the housing status and address. All right, so you can also choose here a family type, which is multi-generational, other, single parent, 2 adults with no kids, 2-parent family. This would be other if it was like roommates with a kiddo, right? And that's, again, these are tracking for CSBG. This over here, the adults and kids, is being auto-calculated by the system based on the birth dates of these 3 people. Once in a while, you might have a case where somebody's moved in temporarily, but they're not part of the household, but you still want to reflect that in terms of the income and things. You can, should you have a special circumstance, you can override the auto calculation with a manual override. And you can add, like, say, Grandma Bunny moves in, but you don't have demographic information for Grandma yet, but you know that Grandma's moved in, right? And you could hit save and close. And now when it does income calculations for poverty, it's going to calculate on 4 people of whom we have demographics on 3. Use it sparingly because you don't want people without demographics in the system, ideally. But sometimes, again, real life and case management work very differently than the perfection of data entry. And sometimes you just have what you have. Okay. The red box around it tells you visually that you have manually overridden the calculations. This isn't jiving with this anymore. That red box is there to tell you that that is the case. Okay. In this case, I'm going to actually take it out. And if it knows what's good for it, it will refresh and show you now again, it's 3. Sorry, it's always a little slower over Zoom, although it's behaving pretty well today in that sense. All right, questions about that? I've just thrown a lot of information for you. How to search, how to create a household, right? The information to put in around who's the head of household and making sure you get the address and their housing status, that the number of people are there. Does this all make a certain amount of sense, at least until we hang up?
It does. I guess I'm just trying to understand the difference between an individual single entry versus a household. So you do have to put in a person first and then it creates the household.
You are exactly right. EmpowOR creates the household. You don't have to. In fact, you can't. There are some systems where you create all the people and then you create a household and you put the people in the household. In EmpowOR, everybody exists in the context of a household. And if you create a person, it creates a household with that person as the head of household. In this case, we created a household of 3, and it lets me pick simply by tagging primary who's the head of household. So the household name is really not critical. Right? It doesn't really matter what adult or kid heads the household if it's a teen-headed household. Right? Important information that y'all aren't using it as deeply for case management as some of our clients who use it as their only system. People can exist in more than one household. For instance, Kiddo Bunny might be half-time in Bugs's household and half-time in somebody else's household. Right? You do that by going into the other household and adding someone to it. Only you don't remove them from their current household. So we'd go into Mom Bunny's household. We would add a participant by searching for Kiddo Bunny, or their date of birth or whatever, and then we would add them. By doing it that way, you'd get 2 little houses over here that would show that Kiddo Bunny exists in 2 households. Okay, I don't particularly want to take you through it right this minute, but I want you to know that functionality is there because families change up, right? Kids often live in more than one household, and there's no limit on how many ways you can split people into households. The only thing you can't do is move a head of household in or out. So let's say that Daffy has gotten custody of Kiddo Bunny and Bugs Bunny is heading out the door. You would make Daffy the head. Then you could remove Bugs Bunny from the household into his own household. Okay. If you end up needing to do much of that, let's do a second session because there are some tips and tricks. And I did record a webinar just recently about how to do that. Okay. But for now, the important takeaway is the functionality exists to have your households in EmpowOR reflect the reality of your clients' households. Okay. All right. So now we are in a household, whether we created it by searching and then creating one, or whether we just searched for it and found it this way. So I'm going to drop back to the search and we're going to look for Daffy, which is going to bring us right back here because there's only one Daffy in the database. If there were two Daffies, it would take us back to that screen and you would be able to choose between which Daffy you wanted. Okay. So in this case, we are in here. The John O. Wilson template that you see here defines what you can do here. Okay. It is should be the only template you see. You shouldn't have a drop down like mine that lets you see a bunch of other ones. You should just see the John O. Wilson template. If that is not the case, let Steve or me know. I'm sorry, that was ungrammatical, wasn't it? Let Steve or me know and we will fix it because you should only see your template. Okay. So the template that defines it, in EmpowOR, the work template can be as broad or as narrow as an administrator makes it. So if you see it here, it's important to get the information. Okay. So income, obviously CSBG has an income eligibility threshold, which Lord love a duck, we hope they will make permanent at 200%, but maybe not, but for now. Right? Income, the way we record income in EmpowOR is called a snapshot because it's a moment in time, right? Somebody might get or lose a job next week, right? You might need to do a new snapshot. So when you do a snapshot, you click the green plus, which in EmpowOR always means add a new something. You're going to select your date because you might be doing data entry for last week. More often, I hope you'd be doing it in real time because why write it down on paper so you have to type it in later? Not especially efficient. So we choose our date. Don't worry about the code. That is, there are some places that calculate income differently for different programs. Have a code for CSBG and a code for HUD because they calculate income differently. In this case, no code. The other thing on this page that I want to show you is this. If you're working with a household that actually has no income, don't just do an income snapshot and leave it blank. Check the affirmative statement that the household has no income. That shows the system that it wasn't a mistake on someone's part. They didn't start to do a snapshot and then not finish it. This is the affirmative statement of having no income. Okay. And if you check that box and hit save, it's going to drop you out because you said they have no income. What it does when you do have income to put in is it brings up all the members of the household with a green plus next to each of their names. So you can add income for each participant. Okay. So, okay, let's say Daffy Duck has some employment and they get paid weekly and it's part-time. So he's making $79 a week. Right? Don't worry about employer. You guys are not tracking individual employers, but some people do. So we're going to say that's it for him. He's just got one part-time job. Okay, we're going to go down to Bugs Bunny. Sorry, I should show you something first. You see the blue ribbon here on top that's for this snapshot date that we're just creating. It is now calculating the percent of poverty and the percent of area median income, in case you're interested, as well as the annual earned and unearned incomes and the average monthly and what the household count is. So you're getting a lot of information that's being calculated here in the blue ribbon. So let's give Bugs some income. Let's say he's also got employment and he gets paid bi-weekly And he's making $750 every 2 weeks. But he's also got a pension, which he's getting a monthly payment from a job he used to have of $125 a month. Now, if I save and close, watch what happens. First of all, those two show up for bugs, of course. Now, the household information is that they're at 114% of poverty at 26% AMI based on where they're living, right? What their annual household income is, how much of it is earned. Pension is considered to be a cash benefit as opposed to earned income. Earned income is basically employment of one kind or another. Unearned annual, and their average monthly. Maybe Kiddo Bunny is special needs and is actually getting SSI monthly of $578. And it changes it once again. A lot of times kids won't have income, but sometimes they do, particularly if there's some disability involved. Questions about income snapshots. We would like to think this is as intuitive as possible, but it's a lot of stuff on the screen to look at.
It's good. Is the income net or gross?
Typically, it's gross. Stephen, how have you instructed your grantees to do it? My understanding is that it's almost always should be gross.
Yes, we always put gross.
Okay, thanks.
Martha has said she has an unscheduled activities going on there in the center. That's okay. We'll get the video to her. And Steve, if there are questions, if you can't do them, punt them to me. No worries, Martha, stuff happens. All right, benefits work a similar way. You're adding a new benefit snapshot. It's going to assume that it's the same as your income snapshot, the date. This forms a picture of what's going on in the household as of a certain date. If the benefits changed and it wasn't tied to an income, you can always make it blank by choosing choose. So the only ones that you all are tracking are WIC, SNAP, and LIHEAP. So if they're getting WIC, if they're getting, let's say they would be getting SNAP in this case, and they'd be getting $150 a week, even though it's probably monthly. It comes in with everybody checked because it assumes that SNAP benefits everyone in the household, but let's say that bugs isn't part of the calculation, maybe only these two get it. Again, you can do it how you want. If you want to put an expiration date in here to trigger a follow-up, you can. Are they getting energy assistance? Steve, will you make a note? We should check why these are the only 3 benefits set up in your system. This hasn't come up before, but there are other benefits that
If we have a whole lot
CSBG
more.
that would like to know about Medicaid, Medicare, some other pieces of benefits that we should just have a quick conversation about that in one of our calls. Okay.
Okay.
So if you see more benefits appear, Peter, that's why.
Actually, say people are disabled, they get SSDI. Does that get tracked?
That comes in their income piece because it's cash income into the house. Benefits, with one glaring exception, are non-cash. The glaring exception is earned income tax credit, which for whatever goofy, stupid reason, and I have worked in community action for 18 years, and I've worked at the national level, and we cannot seem to convince Health and Human Services that earned income tax credit is cash, not a benefit, but it goes in benefits. Otherwise, any cash coming in goes under income, and you'll see SSDI, SSI, private disability. You'll see all those choices in there. Benefits, again, non-cash benefits with that one glaring, silly exception. Okay.
And say someone's getting SSDI and that's it. That's their only source of income. Is that by default the 200% of the poverty guideline? I don't know.
Nope. It would calculate. And so let's go back to that income snapshot. And let's make a new one. You can post date this. We're going to do this for tomorrow. This would not be a real life example. You typically wouldn't have them close. But let's say that Daffy is getting SSDI and that's it. And because he worked a fair bit of his career, he's getting, $1,950 a month in SSDI. Save and close. And that's it. That's the only income for the household. In a household of 3, that puts them at 106% of poverty. Now, poverty guidelines, if he were a family of 1, he would be over 200% of poverty, right? It calculates based on the household count to reach the poverty guidelines. And those are updated in the system whenever they're changed at the federal level. So you don't have to, this is why you don't have to calculate it, because EmpowOR does.
And that everybody who's in the household who brings in an income, that income has to be recorded, right?
That's right. Because in CSBG, it's the household income that determines eligibility. Now, that said, if Bugs comes in and says it's just him and Kiddo Bunny and doesn't report Daffy an income, there's not a lot you can do, right? I mean, you're doing your best faith effort. But if they come in and they report income and it's 205% right now, or if we go back to the original guidelines, who knows what happens in September, October. Steve will let you know about eligibility at that point, is that you can't serve them with CSBG dollars, right? Because they're over income, and that's just how it works. All right, so that is income and benefits. House information you may or may not need to enter. If you are, do you ever pay rent for people?
Yeah, I believe we do.
Okay, I thought so. We haven't gotten down to enrollment and stuff yet, which I need to get to in the next 3 or 4 minutes, but it's next to keep us on track. So the house information is specifically, as you would guess, to the house. Is it an apartment, a mobile home, duplex, triplex, townhouse, or a single family home? You could put landlords in here, but you don't need to. If you did, you'd add organization, but nobody has, because there's no organizations in here. Here's where you'd enter the rent or mortgage amount and indicate whether it was subsidized or not. If it's a Section 8 person and rent mortgage, you can see, effective date. I generally make it today, but whenever you serve them. Arrearage due, because then you can run reports on how much arrearage you paid versus current. Don't worry about bedrooms and occupancy. That's there for HUD. I mean, you can if you want to track it, but that's really there for HUD programs. Okay. That said, none of this tracks to CSBG itself. Okay. This would be more if you want to know how much arrearage and rent you've paid versus other things. So, but it's here on the work template. It's not especially onerous to do. It's the one thing, close, just cancel. All right, it's the only thing on here that of these 3 that is in fact optional, because it does not, as I said, track to reporting. Plans, I'm not going to go over today. Essentially what it is exactly what it sounds like. If you were working longer term with a client and you wanted to create a plan for their financial self-sufficiency plan or their whatever, and it's going to have goals and steps in it, you have that ability to do it in EmpowOR. My understanding, though, is you have other systems that you use for other things. This is specifically for your CSBG folks. But that said, you have the software, you have plans. If you want to explore them, let me know and we'll do a session and look at plans. I've got some good video recordings also of how to do plans. We've had a lot of questions on that, so we did a webinar. All right, now we get to the meat of EmpowOR. We've got a person set up within their household. We've entered their income and their benefits. We know they're eligible. We want to serve them, right? We want to do something to help out. That is found in enrollments and services. So everybody who's going to be served is going to be enrolled in either Case Management Cares or Case Management CSBG. They might get enrolled in both. depending on how you all are segregating and sectioning out your funding. But each enrollment is for one of these two programs. So let's say this is just CSBG. The system already knows that you're at John O. Wilson. It's not looking at RISE or anybody. That's how I set it up. Okay. Enrollment start date. If we're seeing bugs in the family today, it starts today. This is going to end all enrollments December of every year. And if you see them again in January, you just re-enroll them in the program for the upcoming year. Makes reporting really clean. Participants. Is this a program where you're serving the whole household like rent? Or is this a school backpack program where you're just serving kiddo bunny? You know, you all know that. It's case management is generally the whole family. Okay. And you make them enrolled, CSBG eligible, New Jersey. This is really important because you'll see enrolled and enrolled CSBG eligible. New Jersey. That's very specific for your lovely state because of the way that DCA, which is the state organization that passes the money to Steve and other grantees, needs reports run. Now, Peter, that said, should you ever decide you want to put other folks in the system than CSBG, you can. Steve's paying for the software for you and the state is. You would just choose the enrolled status if they weren't being served by CSBG. I can't imagine that that's necessary, but you should know you do have access to it. Okay. So this,
Yeah, that was going to be a question. We are in the process of looking at different case management database systems.
are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
One is called Apricot. I don't know if you're familiar
do.
with them or not.
I am.
And you know, it's pretty pricey, and we haven't made a decision on that. But yeah, I was wondering, could we use this software for our full client database?
You could, and I can do a demo for you, or I can have Afton, who's our sales and marketing guru, do a demo and show you. There would be an additional charge because right now Steve's just paying for kind of the couple of users in this. But I will tell you that adding on additional programs is likely to be fairly inexpensive. And we would talk about how that looked in conjunction with Mercer. I'd need to talk to our developers. This would be a first ever where you're a sub of Mercer, but you're also hypothetically also using the system for the rest of your clients. We think about how to structure that in a way that made the most sense for you all. But if you're interested, let us know. Steve,
When you say us, would that be directly going through you, or is there someone at EmpowOR that he
send it through me to start, because it wouldn't be our traditional demo for somebody who's interested, because some of you are already in the system. But Peter, if after today and using it a little bit and thinking it over with colleagues, you are wanting to see more of this and what it looks like, we can do a full bore demo for you.
Great. And can all the data be like exported in an Excel sheet, and we could do other things with it?
Oh yes, we have extremely dense reporting capabilities. You may not find you don't even need Excel. It's got so much reporting capability. I mean, but yes, you can export everything in here to Excel.
But if I wanted to send an email to a group of people, and I could pull their information out and then send it off, right?
Good heavens, yes.
Awesome.
And let's say you have a program manager there who wants regular reports weekly on participant contacts. That can be set up to run automatically, so you don't have to do it every week. Yeah, we have quite extensive reporting capacity at core reports, advanced reports, and report builder. I mean, there are, if the data is going in, our belief is that the data has to be able to be gotten out. And if you find something that isn't in a report because it never was included, some obscure data point that is important to you and you're recording it, we will find a way to get it into a report for you. But just because if you're putting it in, we really believe you should be able to get it out in a way that makes sense to you. All right. So doing the enrollment is the first step in getting services. So you save and close it. Within an enrollment during a year, they might get several services from you, right? They might get services over time. They might get multiple services in a day. Like anywhere else, the green plus means within this program enrollment, we're going to add some program services. You might also be enrolling them in case management cares, right? So you might have 2 enrollments going here. All right, so the services that have been set up are right over here. It's going to assume that 3 people were served because this household was enrolled and it has 3 people in it. Okay. If you track time with participants consistently across folks, you can actually run reports. How long are we spending with clients? But it's certainly not a required field. Backing up, if you need to do a follow-up date, like you wanted the system to tell you, I want to follow up with these guys in a month from now. Now the system's going to gin up a follow-up on your dashboard, Peter's dashboard, that says, I did the service. I said I wanted to follow up to check in with the family, right? So follow-up dates can be sent. If you have a total amount of dollars that you're spending on behalf of the family, you can put it in here, but not all of these would have a dollar amount associated with them.
That would only be for the cares we would enter.
Okay, thank you,
That is
Steve.
CSBG.
Right. Okay, good deal. So you might be doing a rent payment and you have to click the add button. And the reason is you could also be doing a security deposit payment, right? Maybe you're getting somebody in with first and security, whatever. Maybe you're also giving them food at the same time. Perhaps they're getting case management. That's pretty standard. You all track eligibility determinations. I am assuming, Steve, that means like to see if people are eligible for SNAP and WIC, not just that they were eligible for CSBG.
Right.
Yeah. So if you're helping them figure out other benefits, because, you know, having worked in the field myself, one of the things that is people in crisis, often we need to help them get onto the appropriate benefits. And then if we work with them long enough, maybe we're helping with self-sufficiency and we're helping them taper off the benefits, right? So it could be different over time. So eligibility determinations, let's say we helped them, we're like, oh, your kiddo qualifies for Medicaid. Let's make sure we get that app in for you, right? If you're doing any of the school stuff or the stuff for kids in education, and then other services, this is there for, I don't think it's for Wilson. I think this was somebody else. But if you're doing any of these,
Rise
it is, that's right, Rise. So if you were doing any of this, then you could, right? Now, something really important. Save to see other tabs. This is true across EmpowOR. If you see a save and a save and close, save is going to bring up other options. So let's say you wanted to make referrals to somebody else there at John O. Wilson or somebody at another place, right? You can do that. If you were using, Steve, are y'all using the expenditures or just putting the total cares dollars in the first on the basic information?
in the number 2. We were not following the expenditure.
I did not think so, but it's early and this is my first double coffee. So,
Yeah.
All right, it's not early by your standards, but it's early by my standards.
Well, Virginia, right? So
I am. No, I just meant that
Fine,
you're an early bird and I am not. I'd like to be, but I'm not. So you're not using those outcomes. This is important because maybe they avoided eviction or maybe they were homeless and obtained temporary shelter. If you pay rent, by the way, that is avoided eviction. Okay. Or mortgage, avoided foreclosure. You got them into a house. Maybe it's homeless and obtained temporary shelter and obtained safe, affordable housing. Maybe they moved from homelessness either through a shelter or directly into a rental. That could be 2 outcomes because they were homeless. That's the specificity of that outcome. So I'm going to save it. And they obtained safe, affordable housing. So now we have a service that has 2 very direct outcomes, right? Today, when we paid those things, these folks got this. If we save and close, well, it's because I told it I wanted to do another outcome. Okay. Now we see that on this date, we did case management, we worked on eligibility, we gave them some food, we did a rent payment and a security deposit. I can always go back in there using the edit button and take a look at things. A quick note on editing, and this is true for income and for benefits as well. Let's say they came in this week and they had the income that we put in. And then next week, mom gets a part-time job in addition to the other. Don't edit the first income snapshot, create a new one, because that one was true at the time. And now this is true. It's important to be able to look at that over time when you're working with people, not just that it changed. Now, that said, of course, if they're like, oh my gosh, I forgot I get $150 a month child support. I forgot. Okay, yeah, edit, obviously. Same deal with services. If it's another day or a different service, just make a new service. If it's this service, but you forgot to put in summer camp, whatever, right? Just edit. But in general, I recommend fairly strongly, if it's a different service or a different income, just do another one. The system is happy to hold many, many things. The last thing I want to show you, and then take questions and sort of think about next steps for you and for Martha, who had to step away, is,
Oh, can I ask a question?
of course, Steve.
Our program is entitled Case Management to Self-Sufficiency, and that's one of the services, number 7. We should automatically, no matter what, click number 7, as well as additional services.
Okay.
Would that be a fair description?
You could. As a master Roma trainer, I have to say that case management here is that. Okay, that is SRV 7.
Right.
You sound like maybe that's something different.
No, that's correct. Always choosing that, and because the options are that you could choose multiple services.
You can, but that one, and sometimes some visits that might be the only service, right? They came in, we talked about some stuff, we did this, that, and the other,
Right.
But we didn't actually do anything besides case management. We didn't do food. We didn't do
that more or less for clean reports, because
Mhm.
we're doing case management, that we need to see 75 at least case management, and then plus services.
Right.
Right. Okay.
And that would be the enrollments, by the way, is what you're looking at there, is 75 enrollments, because unless you're talking about, it could be 50 people with 75 case management services, but I don't think you are.
Well, no matter what you're doing with the services, isn't that case management?
It can be. It can be. Yeah. I mean, any services qualify as working with a family. In this case, you've made the determination that you want to be able to run a report on the service of case management and see how many case management visits and how many unique people and households got case management, because one family might get case management 7 times, but there's still only one family. And this lets you run reports on both. Absolutely.
Yeah, Peter, did that make any sense, what I just asked?
Yeah, if I understand it, so, when we make an initial contact with a person and do an intake and try to help, in the particular service need they have, that is case management. So that's automatic. And then we come down.
But you still have to add it, you have to click it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Fair to me.
Makes sense.
Good, thank you.
I think I know a way to simplify that, but let's hold off for your next reporting year to make it consistent, okay? The enrollment report would give you that, but I want to see how the year ends up looking for you before I recommend that change. It would just be one fewer click for people. So 2 quick things, very important. One is case notes. We haven't really talked about yet. And I know that Steve and gang monitor case notes. If you do a case note from right here, it is tied to this service visit, which is appropriate, right? If that's when you had a case note, right? So case note, I'm going to add one here. It's going to assume it's today. Is it a client contact? Yes. Does it concern everybody? Yes, or you can take it out. Type of contact. It was actually an office visit. Don't do privacy tags. You don't have any set up. They're for like DV programs and stuff. And you put your note in here. We talked about cartoons.
Yeah, right.
Right. Hey, tomorrow it could be Sesame Street. It just depends on my mood. Sometimes it's Marvel characters. All right. Save and close. Now, we're back in the service. I'm going to save and close that. You will note there is a big thing of case notes up here at the top. It is always at the top. The note that I just did for that service exists in a bucket of case notes, and it's tied to that service. But let's say I want to search the case notes on Daffy Duck's household. It knows that there was one there, but it was added from service delivery. Okay. Let's say they call up later that afternoon and I want to make a note of it. I could add it right from the search field from up there. And I could say, this is a client contact, only it was a telephone call. Well, to tell me that Wile E. Coyote came by. Okay. Can you tell I had my grandchildren last weekend? All right. So save and close. Oh, you have to select a participant. Sorry, it's marked required. I just didn't. So Daffy called up to tell me that Wile E. Coyote came by again. Close. Now it's going to refresh and say, this was added from, it's called enrollment, but from the basic family enrollment screen. Okay. So you can tell where it was entered. So if you're looking for notes from whence I saw somebody, this is search fields. You can look for your categories. You can look for a word in the notes. You can look at who it applies to, or you can scroll through and look and go directly back to that note by clicking on it. I know that Mercer County does require that you all keep case notes on what you do with people, and they monitor to that. So important functionality, you can always access it from up here, and it's okay to put all your notes in from up here, even if you're on basic. Oh, crud, it's 10. I'm sorry. I didn't realize we'd gotten to the top of the hour. Are there questions that you have? I'm going to show you the dashboard, which is I know it's the second button, but it's the last thing I show you. This is going to show you everybody's enrollments, services, and outcomes across Mercer County. So if they were also enrolled in RISE's summer camp, it would show up here on their dashboard. Again, come the end of September, you'll be able to customize this in some really cool ways. But the dashboard, you can't work from here unless it happens to be your program, in which case you can. But you can see what's happening with the family in other programs. Does all that make sense? And let Paige know I may be a couple of minutes late. Peter, what questions does that leave you with, or does it leave you with enough to get started?
Yeah, it's a very good presentation, so thank you.
My pleasure.
I think I'm good in terms of if we have the same person, but they're enrolled in programs year over year. So will they show up multiple times, or is it just date enrollment that
they'll show up? Yes, exactly. Let's look at somebody named Smith. We're bound to have a Smith in the database. Watch, Mercer County will be the one place where there's no one named Smith. Okay. So we've got, let's look for somebody. Okay, yeah, somebody from 2017. The Baden-Smith household. Okay. So we can see here, looking at her dashboard, that she did INA, actually with your group. We don't do information and assistance anymore. It's CSBG case management or CARES case management. But you can see that she did that in 2018. So all you would do now, if she came in and wanted services again, is you would update the income, the benefits, because CSBG is an annual, it's an annual eligibility. So you have to make sure they're still eligible. So you do another income benefit snapshot. And if they seem to be eligible, you'd go to enrollments and services and you would go ahead and enroll them again. At that point, let us say hypothetically that she'd gotten services in each of the last 2 years, you would see them here. Be aware there are default search dates and you can change them. But you would see them. And so you could see it year over year. So yeah, the same person could be in 4 different households over 4 years, right? They could have received services here, 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 and here, and it will all show up on their household dashboard. And then you can assure the eligibility. For instance, you can come in here and look, and maybe they came in earlier this year, but they saw another colleague of yours, right? You didn't see them or know them. And you're like, oh, well, they did an income snapshot on 6/22 of 2021. Let's just pretend for a moment that says 2021. Like, oh, well, I don't have to. It's only August of 21. Fine. I don't have to ask them. I don't have to bug her for that. Don't have to get proof of income because it's already here. And that's what we think makes EmpowOR different, is everything is tied, individual and household, but you don't have to do it. The system does it for you and you can see it. Go ahead, Steve.
Is it, it's annual though, so everyone has to be re-enrolled annually?
Annually. And the way you all chose to do it is at the end of the calendar year, and then we just start them up fresh in January. So she comes in back in January, reassess income, re-enroll her in the program for that year, and keep going. But all the information, if they haven't moved or anything, that it's a single mother household, blah, 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 it updates everybody's ages based on, you know, the system date. And so you just have to say, okay, let's check income, let's check benefits, enroll for 2022, and start doing services under that enrollment.
So Peter, say someone would come quarterly, 4 times a year. If they were enrolled in January, then all the income, the benefits, the household, you know, everything, unless there needs to be an update, doesn't have to be updated then. But come next January, in 22, yes, the income has to be re-verified, etc.
Okay. I am so sorry, gentlemen, but I have to jump for this next meeting. Peter, if you have questions, you should have my email because I invited you to the meeting. Feel free to send them to me. If it's straight up, how does this work in EmpowOR questions, you can click on the little support otter up here in the corner, Professor Oric, and send an email question to there. But since you're still on the very first hour or so of your learning, please feel free to contact me directly. But if I'm on another call, I'm not watching email. So it may not be as quick as contacting support. Gino is a wizard and tends to reply really fast to how do I kind of questions. Okay.
Terrific. This is excellent. Thank you so much.
It's my
Thank you.
pleasure. Let Steve know if you need additional time with me to go over things, or if you have questions, I'm happy to jump on, even if it's just for 5 or 10 minutes, and demo something for you. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Lou.
It is my great pleasure, gentlemen. Have a great week.
You too.
Bye-bye.